boomers were deadbeat parents, and if you had emotionally immature boomer parents, especially if they provide.
So, what happened is the silent generation was fairly normal, but then the boomers got birth control, and then that made everything revolve around a woman's sex life instead of raising a family. So, family fell away when the boomers came along, and everything became about greed and sexual liberation. The variety of different men a woman could sleep with instead of the individual. So women no longer care about who they sleep with, they just care about how many men they can sleep with. And when it comes to parenting, well, women get rid of the father for a guilt free sex life. And the same is true in Generation X. And the women have just doubled down on being sexual narcissists and wealth narcissists. So it turns out any woman can be bought, like the movie Indecent Proposal. Look at if your girl is walking with her guy down the street, all of a sudden a random stranger approaches who offers her money. Well, it turns out every woman has a price and she can be bought by a random stranger, and she'll walk away with that guy instead in sociology. So your woman doesn't authentically love you anymore these days, the last two generations. And it's really bad for parenting. Parenting is over, marriage is over, relationships are over, and now dating is over. Because the women are supposed to approach men now in dating, and the women are acting clueless about it because they're narcissists. But I argue women decide if they're going to be good mothers with the guy at the end of the day. So they should approach men in dating, right? And also, men are caged for selection, unlike the rest of nature. You don't see antelope or gazelle or male giraffe or hippos or bucks getting put into a cage for hopping on the female and mating. No, humans must be weird. We have a torture fetish. We like to cage our males for mating. And what's that do? It makes it survival of the ass kisser instead of survival of the fittest. So all the men are emasculated, right? They're even circumcised at birth, and they're seen as useless war fodder because corrupt corporations and corrupt governments want to use the men to sell their product, weapons, and bombs. So the men go die when they turn 18, and they get Dear John letters from women who don't authentically love them according to science, right? So we have to talk about all of this because the world graph is headed for population collapse, and the governments of the world have to suddenly admit they have a sexist, anti male government that emasculates the men, and it's leading to population collapse. Well, why is this? The 80-20 rule in dating has turned into the 96-4 rule, and it shows you, oh, none of these men are good enough for these women who have Princess and the Pea syndrome, who are too smug for any man, right? This is what happens when you give women exclusive mate selection. They don't actually want to be mothers, and that's the awful truth. So, this is why everything's falling apart. Hey, when you give women power, society falls apart. So, I don't say it to be sexist, it's just that all people tend to abuse their power, like the Stanford prison experiment. So, this is why I've never seen my son before. That's her parental narcissism. So, what's going on is she's a phony parent. She's a fake parent pretending to be someone who cares about parenting, right? But the child does worse across the spectrum without the original father and has an 80% higher chance of incarceration with the former US government. And that just shows, oh my God, hey, look, they want your children to be incarcerated, right? And it's just basically a big meat grinder. You know, the government likes to break your family apart with child support, right? They're calling extortion child support. Okay, they're just playing God with words. The government's profiting off of breaking your family apart if your woman is a weak narcissist, basically. So, uh, women will collude with the corrupt government to break the family apart. Now we know. And if you actually cared about parenting, you would get rid of child support, right? Because you're incentivizing the wealth narcissist to destroy the family and care more about money than parenting. Okay? And does the government know what they're doing? They either do or they don't. You're living in an idiocracy like the movie. It is technically profiting off of breaking your family up. If these judges, have a job and they get to stand in the way of parenting as an arbiter somehow, right? To divide and conquer your family with visitations, right? And all of this. Well, the baseline is that your woman isn't mature enough to be with the father or to care about parenting. It's just Munchausen by proxy when she gets rid of that father. It's not authentic parenting because the child has no one to impress when you get rid of the father. It has apathy for life and becomes sardonic and doesn't take the parenting of the mother seriously. So it leads to a situation of chaos where none of the children care about what the adults think anymore in general across all of society. And they don't take any of the teachers in school seriously. They don't take class seriously or adult authority in general seriously. If you tell the children the truth, the entire prison system was just the torture fetish of the adults who don't understand a reward based society, who are punitive psychopaths. Hey, look, all the adults are on the wrong side of history. They have avoidant personality disorder. And for me personally, because talking to the world's smartest man requires massive social change that none of the adults want to do. Now, I don't think the girl in this video is trying to virtue signal with that word deadbeat dad, but when women do that, they're on the wrong side of history now after my argument I've just told you. So every time anyone says deadbeat dad from now on, just understand, hey, look, you're trying to virtue signal, it's called in psychology. If you really cared about parenting, you would have modeled after Libya, who gave a bonus for couples who get married, 50 grand or 5 grand for every baby they get, instead of trying to legally extort the male with threat of being put in a cage if he doesn't pay the bully government his extortion money.